Okay, so long story short, I think I died and I ended up here and I have no idea where this weird vehicle is or where I'm headed, but I don't really care, because we're not here for that, we're here for Lunacid. The recently released Tears of Moonlight spin-off game is full of really interesting mysteries, but there's one mystery that shines far above them all. In the Road to Ruin, the penultimate area of the game, you can find a strange item called the Symbol of Groutoket. This item isn't needed to finish the game, however, if you pick this item up and return to the aqueduct, you can open up a mysterious sealed door which leads into the one and only optional area in the game, the Forgotten Temple. Within this temple, you'll have to explore to find 2 more symbols of Groutoket by fighting against red mages and weird worm creatures that somewhat resemble the original Specimen 10 for Spooky's Jumpscare mission. Symbols of Groutoket aren't the only thing to be found in this area, however, because there's also 3 mysterious vials of cranial fluid around the temple, but more on those later. Once you obtain the 2 symbols of Groutoket, you can open up this big sealed door. Behind it, you can find 2 odd creatures, a strange penile creature that the community has dubbed Phallic Frank, and this thing, dubbed the Worm Goddess. Now you might be wondering, who the hell is Phallic Frank and this mysterious worm goddess, and why were they sealed away like this? Well, remember those vials of cranial fluid? When you drink one of them, you get a strange vision. Each of the vials has its own vision that it bestows upon you. But what are these visions? Well, the answer is pretty clear to me. These are all visions of the worm goddess's past, before she turned into the horrific form she is in within the game. The first vision is of the worm goddess's kingdom, a great city, possibly our capital city, considering the fact that she is later described as a great queen. It can be assumed that this city is one of the many in her vast kingdom. However, something happened to the queen of the land, and the second vision shows this transformation from the perspective of someone else. This other someone is likely her husband, the king, tending to her in her time of need. And the third vision is from the worm queen's perspective, tunneling through the earth after her form got contorted. But all of this poses the question, who the hell would do this to the queen? Who in the world could be so cruel, so unjust to put the queen through such a horrific transformation? Cruel. Cruelty. Oh no. It always comes back to Gototh, doesn't it? If you aren't an avid Kira fan, you might be wondering who the hell Gototh is. But Gototh is such a complicated subject, it would require a whole video of its own, so I'll just give a basic short overview. Gototh is a mysterious god of cruelty who has appeared continuously throughout Kira's games. The first official mention of Gototh is in Lost in Vivo, but Gototh lore traces as far back as Spooky's Jumpscare mansion with Specimen 8, who is one of Gototh's many children. Though the term children isn't very apt. They aren't Baya's direct spawn, it's more like they were adopted by Gototh and turned into its devotees. It could very well be that the queen's horrific transformation into the worm goddess is a direct result of one of the many acts of cruelty one has to do to prove their faith to Gototh. We know this for certain because a lot of Lunacid's greatest mysteries are a result of acts of cruelty committed by the Mad Wizard Abdul. And we have to commit some acts of cruelty ourselves to get ending B of the game. But who could be the person that committed this act of cruelty? I think it's none other than the enigmatic Groutoket. Considering Groutoket seems to be extremely important enough to have symbols of them carved and used as keys. It could very well be that Groutoket is either one of Gototh's children, or a very avid follower of Gototh similar to Mad Wizard Abdul. It could be that Groutoket committed this immense act of cruelty in Gototh's name, and together with Groutoket's own followers, they captured and sealed the Worm Queen into a separate chamber, which can only be opened by using 2 symbols of Groutoket that only the followers know the locations of within the temple. However, after many ages passed, this ancient temple might have been discarded and forgotten, with some of Groutoket's most loyal followers staying behind. Why would they stay behind, you may ask? Well, for the Worm Goddess. The cranial fluids we collect through the temple are likely the Worm Goddess's own cranial fluids, considering the fact they give us visions of her kingdom. And considering the fact that they increase your strength when consumed, some followers might have stayed behind to make the most of her. Drinking enough cranial fluid also seems to make you in tune with the Worm Queen somehow, as you can drink her blood directly from a giant wound in her skin after drinking 3 vials of cranial fluid. And drinking her blood directly increases your strength by 10. Though you might wonder, what about all those little worms around the temple? How could they come to be? Well, remember how I mentioned that the person tending to Queen's wounds was likely her husband, the prince? Well, it is my theory that this prince was also transformed into none other than Phallic goddamn Frank. And not only was he transformed as well, but they were likely cursed to eternally breed with one another in their new heinous forms, creating hundreds of small little wormlings that dot the temple. It really wouldn't make sense to me that someone would put these two through such a cruel fate unless they were doing it to appease the literal God of Cruelty. Although I must admit, literally everything within this video is just a giant shot in the dark crackpot theory. For all we know, Groutoket is some unrelated god, or maybe just some guy. But it's still very fun to speculate, especially considering the paid Lunacid DLC is still on its way, and I got a very funny feeling that Groutoket will be further expanded on within it. It just feels a bit too out of the blue to introduce Groutoket in this way if they won't be further elaborated on or expanded on in the future. It feels like there's way too many interesting directions to take the story in for it all to not mean anything larger in the end. But ultimately, we'll see how it goes within the actual paid DLC. Also, I'm still not sure where this weird tram thing is gonna go, but talking about Lunacid really helps pass the time on it. And we seem to be going up right now, but I'm sure it'll be fine. I'll be seeing you all next time. Later, taters! As always, I want to give a thank you to all of my amazing patrons, namely Psychoskull, Skipatronic, Blue Phoenix 1, and VG Ceiling Fan. You guys really are amazing, and you're basically the whole reason why I make these videos every month. And hey, if you want to join these guys and get a little shout out at the end of every single video, then hey, links in the description and stuff. And my Discord server is also open, if you want to join that. Anyway, I'm really thankful that you watched this whole thing, and hey, if you want an extra shout out even if you aren't a patron, feel free to read the description of the video, If you do, you might find something that'll be your tickets to getting your name said by me. Not that that's that much of an honor, but it's a fun little thing you can do. I really look forward to all the new stuff we'll be discussing together, especially now that these new DLCs are out. Anyway, I'll be seeing you all next time. Thanks for listening to me, and I don't want to make this too long because this video does not deserve a long outro segment because it's super short. Later, taters!